Welcome to the Work Heartily podcast, where we grab no more than 15 minutes with Nashville founders and executives that you know and admire, and some that you need to know, and ask them one big question. I'm your host, Jonathan Barnes, coming to you from the Work Heartily headquarters in Brentwood, Tennessee, where we help growing Nashville area businesses win through embedded fractional leadership. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of being joined by Chris Stovall. Chris is an experienced executive. He's an operator. What some people call a chief culture officer. He's a strategic partner with Work Heartily. He's a father of 6. He has a lot going on. Here's your pre-question, Chris. Are you ready?
As I'm ever going to be.
There we go. That's the right answer. All right. Here's the one question. Chris, should you diagnose the team before you touch the strategy? And this is not a yes or no question, by the way.
Yeah. I don't do strategy first.
Okay.
I go to the team first.
Tell me about that.
That's methodology. Well, for starters, if the team's not healthy, you can't really trust what you're seeing on the strategic side of the company. And so I have just learned over the years that the best way, if you can get access to it, the best way is to first talk at the very top of the founder and get a sense of where he thinks or she thinks things are going well and things are not going well. And so I usually just have a real quick surface conversation and see what I can discern. And then I do have a pretty good structure for how I would kind of work into the rest of the team. And so I'll talk to the founder first, because if they are not clear, then it doesn't really matter what's going on downstream. So what I'll do is I'll get a pretty good feel for what's working and what's not working, for anecdotally and from his experience or her experience too. And then I really like to get a full set of data from the full team. And so I would typically run a survey to get the information from the broader team. And then I would typically focus it on what I call key players. So the key players, they're either senior management, they're managers, they're supervisors, whatever they happen to be. Between those 3 perspectives, when I pull them together, I can pretty much identify where the alignment is and where the alignment is broken.
Yeah.
And that gives me the opportunity to hone in very quickly on the quickest opportunities that can be accessed, but also address the most challenging obstacles quickly as well. So it's a very quick process.
Yeah. And I think I'm sure a lot of listeners are thinking, well, yeah, that sounds really cool. Do you have you don't have to name names, but do you have an example where you've been able to do that and there was a light bulb that went off, or maybe some pushback? Just curious, hey, I need to diagnose your team first before we start talking strategy. How has that played out in your experience?
The founders don't always know what's going on outside of their perspective.
Really? I'm just checking.
Yes. Yeah. And
yeah,
so,
you're totally right. Yeah. They get so focused. Yeah.
There's a big gap between how the founder thinks things are going and how the team thinks things are going. And every founder is different. Every founder has a different degree of discernment, of awareness. Some of them think that everything is great if they're not hearing any problems. That's not always the case. And sometimes they think the sky is falling from their perspective, and that's not nearly the case either. And so I really have to get a sense, you really have to get a sense of where the founder is at that point in time, and what's driving him at that moment, what he's worried about, because that's always the most important thing, right?
Sure.
The founder's focused on most.
Yeah. I mean, I find this too, when you ask a founder or a leader what's their burning issue, or it's keeping them up at night, they might list 3 or 4 things that are really worrying them. But I think it takes a little bit more digging to figure out what the heart of the issue really is. And the digging doesn't always come from the founder only. It's kind of from the entire company that you're working with, and saying, okay, well, yes, the founder's really worried about this, but the team is seeing these other 3 things. And if we can have a synthesized view of this, we can get to the heart of really what's happening with the company and how I can help as an operator or as a systems person, or, you can think about this in terms of sales and marketing and everything else too.
Yeah. So the reason why I like to collect from the key players and then the broader team is because it's hard to argue those perspectives. So if I just spend time with the founder has usually a pretty different view of things. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And when I can get that data and I can bring that data to the table, then the founders that have an open mindset about it will start to have these aha moments where it's just like, oh, I had no idea. And sometimes it's a really simple thing where the founder is just not focused on, that particular attribute within the team. And it's creating it, let's just say it's creating a trust problem. And so people aren't telling him what's going on because he doesn't necessarily trust, or they don't necessarily trust that they can share that with them, or it's going to be received well. And so I really have to get a good objective baseline for how the team is operating and how the team is feeling. And that's the founder, that's the whole group, and then that's sort of the key people in the middle that synthesize, with the founder and then with the teams down below.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and this is not original, but if you want to know what's going on in your business, you don't really talk to the founder necessarily. You talk to the frontline people because they know what's working and they know what's not working. And they know where the breaks are, they know where the gaps are. They don't always have a voice or a channel to bring that up in every organization. And that's a great thing to have. And I've implemented things to help, information come up from the front lines in a way that makes sense. So it really is a little bit of more art than science when I'm working with the founder, and it's particularly, it's an entrepreneurial team, or it's an early phase where it's still being formed. And so there's usually people are doing a lot of different jobs. Things are moving very quickly, and there's typically not a lot of structure around the team communication, and all those principles, that we talk about, and you kind of hear them over and over and over again. It's just clarity, alignment, trust.
Yeah. All
It's
that
it's
stuff.
really basic.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things you said is to get the founder open enough to understand or to be willing to hear. And a lot of the podcast listeners are definitely founders or leaders. This is a bonus question. What would you, if somebody's listening right now and you think they might be kind of too focused on their own stuff and not necessarily open to what's going on at the rest of their company, and that's where the company is mindset to help them think through that when you're initially talking to them, or if they're listening on this podcast and they're hearing it for the first time, and well, what would Chris say as the chief culture officer kind of guy walking in? What would you say to that founder in that specific situation?
Yeah, I'd say, when was the last time you sat down and talked to your team, or your core team, number one? And number two, I might also, depending on the personality, I might say, like, let's not do this alone. Like, don't pull them together and sit down and have this, off the cuff conversation. Let's have a facilitated conversation where you'll get a better outcome with a third party to help sort of walk through that process. Because, if there's any trust issues, or if the team is caught off guard and they don't know if they should speak up or not, it's not as productive and fruitful as it could be. So it's, unless the founder is a really good natural communicator, and he or she is already doing the right things when it comes to fostering trust and making sure that people know that they can speak up and they can bring things to the table. I would just really, really, really encourage to have somebody alongside who's an independent third party to help structure that conversation and moderate it.
Yeah, and it's somebody with everybody's best interest in mind, which is it's such a gift. I've had the privilege of having some people come alongside me and be there for me during building companies or walking through difficult times with companies, and it is so helpful because even if they don't solve all the problems, right? You look to somebody, you might think they're going to solve the problems. They can't solve everything, but they allow you to understand what's happening, basically be a walking whiteboard for you and help you get your ideas out and think through these things. And a lot of those times, having a facilitator in those discussions brings, instead of just being so focused on what everybody else is doing in their own little divisions, it just really breaks down all those walls.
It just depends on the personalities and the temperature of the organization, and, are things going well or are things not going well?
Yeah.
It's a very different conversation. And I'll say this: I don't really, I don't solve problems, and that's in that venue as much as I help moderate the conversation down a productive path. Because
That's
the
key.
worst thing in the world you can do to a team, a founder can do to a team, is to roll in hot and guns blazing, and because they got a full head of steam about something,
Right.
it's just it usually doesn't work out well.
Yeah. You're
And
totally
so
right.
that's where, at least in my experience, I mean, but partly because I do what I do, it's twofold. I like to make things better, and so I'm I'm always about having the conversations, doing the work that needs to be done to get that things foundationally better so that execution can improve. Healthy teams execute better. It's
Yeah.
just how it works. And you can not think about it that way, but I'm telling you, that's a hard way to go. And I've just learned over time. And really, I only know this because I've made every mistake you can make over 25 or 30 years. And
Yeah.
so I at least have the ability to have pattern recognition when I do step into that room to see where we might need to tiptoe and where we might be able to press in a little bit more, aggressively or firmer. So
It's awesome.
experience is everything.
It is. I think it's, when somebody has the battle wound, so to speak, they know how to navigate those battles for you, or at least tell you which way to go during.
You,
Don't
you,
go that way. Go this way. Yeah.
you learn what not to do very quickly.
Exactly. Hey, we did it. It's 15 minutes. Chris, thank you so
Fantastic.
much. Yeah, man. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like and subscribe and share it, especially with another founder or leader that you think might enjoy this conversation with Chris. Please visit workheartily.com to learn how embedded fractional leadership can help you and your business thrive, connect you to Chris, all those kind of fun things. And we will see you next time. Thanks again for your time, Chris.
Thank you. Well done.